Imagine standing before three altars, one glowing with electric blue light, humming with algorithms and code, another pulsing with the heartbeat of innovation, rockets and steel, and the third, silent, infinite, terrifying in its stillness. Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, God. Three names, three different kinds of creation, and yet one accusation binds them all: arrogance. You've heard it, haven't you? Musk thinks he's God. Zuckerberg wants to control humanity. God, he made a world just to watch it burn. The internet loves to judge creators, especially those who dare to create beyond comprehension. But maybe that judgment hides something deeper. Maybe when we call them arrogant, what we're really seeing is our own reflection. Because what is arrogance truly? Is it the belief that you can do something no one else can, or the courage to try it anyway? Is it defiance or divine duty? When Musk builds machines that dream of Mars, we call him delusional. When Zuckerberg engineers a digital world where billions interact, we call him manipulative. When God creates existence itself, we call him proud. But tell me, would humility have ever built a universe? Would humility have ever dared to split atoms, decode genes, launch rockets, or rewrite human connection? Would humility have said, "Let there be light"? Every act of creation carries within it a whisper of rebellion. Creation is defiance, the refusal to accept what already is. The artist offends the blank canvas. The inventor offends gravity. The thinker offends tradition. The God offends perfection by introducing choice. And yet we condemn them. We want creators to build, but not too boldly. We want visionaries to dream, but only dreams we can understand. We want gods, but ones who never question our comfort. So, we call them arrogant, because it's easier than admitting that courage unsettles us. But here's the paradox. The same arrogance we despise is the same fire that moves civilization forward. The same defiance that made man build Babel made him reach for the stars. The same ego that dares to question divine authority is the same one that crafts every philosophy, every revolution, every art form that ever mattered. Maybe Elon Musk, Zuckerberg, and even God share not arrogance, but inevitability. The drive to create, even when misunderstood. The audacity to exist in a world that worships obedience. Because what if arrogance is not a flaw of creation, but its fuel? What if arrogance is just the name the fearful give to evolution? So here's the question you can't escape. If arrogance is the heartbeat of creation, then what happens to a world that silences it? What happens when humility becomes our prison and ambition our sin? We'll explore that next, as we uncover the psychological and philosophical roots of what we call arrogance and what the ancients already knew about the divine audacity that fuels existence itself. Arrogance. It's a word we spit out like poison, but secretly crave the taste of. We despise it in others, yet worship it in silence. We say we want humility, but our hearts kneel before those who dare to break the rules of nature itself. The problem is not arrogance, it's our misunderstanding of it. Machiavellie once said, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." But that was never a call to tyranny. It was a warning about perception. Power, real power, always looks arrogant to those who feel powerless. When Elon Musk talks about colonizing Mars, he is not just defying physics, he's defying smallness, the smallness of collective imagination. When Mark Zuckerberg dreams of mapping human interaction through code, he's not playing God, he's playing man at his highest capacity. The desire to understand, to connect, to dominate chaos through pattern. But society doesn't see that, because to the average mind, confidence looks like pride. Vision looks like madness. Control looks like sin. And yet every prophet, every philosopher, every creator walked that same path, the one between enlightenment and exile. Socrates questioned too much and drank poison. Galileo looked too far and was silenced by the church. Jesus spoke too boldly and was crucified by the very world he came to save. The pattern never changes. We punish the ones who remind us that greatness demands offense. Carl Jung called this the shadow, the part of the psyche that contains everything we refuse to admit we desire. When we accuse others of arrogance, we're often projecting our own hidden longing for freedom, the wish to be untamed, to act without apology, to dare without permission. So when you call someone arrogant, look closer. You may just be looking at the part of yourself you've been forced to repress. Nietzsche understood this perfectly. He saw humility, the false kind, as a social invention, a psychological leash designed to keep humanity docile. He wrote of slave morality, a system that praises meekness, not because it's virtuous, but because it keeps the powerful in chains. The meek don't inherit the earth. They inherit the comfort of obedience. And so we've built a culture that mistakes modesty for virtue and ambition for vice. We quote kindness while secretly envying conquest. We teach children to be humble, but celebrate those who dare to rise. It's a quiet hypocrisy, one even religion wears elegantly, because what could be more paradoxical than worshiping a god accused of arrogance for creating free will, a deity that gives humans choice and then watches as they weaponize it? Maybe the arrogance isn't divine, maybe it's human. Maybe our problem is not that gods and geniuses act boldly, but that we cannot bear the mirror they hold up to our smallness. Because what we call arrogance might just be clarity, the unbearable sight of what's possible when someone stops asking for permission.
The approval, the validation, the applause, all the noise you once thought was your oxygen was only smoke. You'll learn that peace doesn't come from winning arguments or being understood. Peace comes when your silence no longer feels like defeat, because real strength is quiet. It doesn't need to announce itself, it simply is. That's the paradox the world never teaches you. You spend years chasing recognition, trying to be seen, until one day you finally realize the only eyes that ever mattered were your own. And in that stillness, you'll meet something sacred. Not religion, not philosophy, something older than both: truth. The kind of truth that doesn't shout, it whispers. And when it does, it cuts through everything you once thought you knew. It says, you cannot control what others see, only what you become. You cannot demand loyalty from the world, only integrity from yourself. You cannot command respect, you can only embody it until the world has no choice. And when you understand this, manipulation loses its power. Gaslighting stops working. Control shatters because truth doesn't negotiate. It simply stands. That's why people who live by truth often walk alone. Not because they're antisocial, but because solitude becomes sacred. It's not loneliness, it's alignment. You stop craving noise because silence finally feels safe. You stop chasing love because you've learned to become it. You stop fearing loss because what's real cannot be taken. That's the secret they don't want you to know. Once you see clearly, you can't be controlled. You can't be bought by flattery. You can't be broken by rejection. You can't be blinded by success. Because you've learned the rarest discipline of all, detachment with purpose. You act, but don't cling. You give, but don't beg. You build, but don't boast. And in that balance, you find your freedom. That's when arrogance transforms into wisdom. That's when confidence evolves into peace. That's when power stops being about control and starts being about clarity. You understand that the goal was never to win. It was to see yourself, to see others, to see the game for what it is, and to play without losing your soul. And when you reach that point, you don't even need to call it enlightenment. It's just truth. Simple, unshakable, unbothered. You finally realize you were never meant to be understood by everyone. You were meant to become unexplainable, a quiet storm that moves with purpose and leaves silence in its wake. Because the ultimate form of power is peace.
Here's the cruel irony of existence. The higher someone dares to rise, the smaller everyone else feels. And so we pull them down. Not with reason, not with truth, but with ridicule. Mockery is humanity's favorite form of defense. It's how the insecure protect themselves from awe. Because to stand in the presence of greatness is to confront one's own insignificance, and most people would rather destroy the mirror than face what it shows. So we build narratives. Elon is crazy. Zuckerberg is soulless. God is cruel. They're not statements, they're shields, each one designed to keep the human ego intact. But this has a deeper cost, one we rarely admit. When we condemn the heights of others, we also limit our own. We start believing that ambition is dangerous, that audacity is a sin, that humility, not courage, is the path to peace. And slowly, quietly, civilization begins to dim. The great thinkers vanish into caution. The visionaries turn cynical. The brave turn quiet. What replaces them is safety, the silent empire of mediocrity. Aldous Huxley saw this coming in Brave New World. He warned that comfort, not chaos, would enslave us, that the future wouldn't be ruled by tyrants, but by softness. A world where no one dares offend, no one dares transcend, a world allergic to greatness. And here we are, medicated, entertained, distracted, drowning in the shallow pool of equality, where the tallest flowers are cut before they bloom. We call it fairness, but it's fear. Fear that someone's brilliance might expose our passivity. Fear that someone's certainty might mock our hesitation. Fear that we too might be capable of more if only we had the courage to try. Psychologically, this is called downward comparison, the tendency to measure ourselves against those below us to preserve self-esteem. But when faced with someone who defies that framework, who rises so high that comparison becomes impossible, the ego doesn't grow, it fractures. And in that fracture, we begin to hate what we secretly admire. It's why prophets are killed, why innovators are mocked, why success stories always come with a trail of rumors, resentment, and ridicule. Because the crowd cannot forgive the one who proves that limits were an illusion. Even religion follows this script. When we question why God allows suffering, what we're really asking is why He doesn't design life to make us comfortable, why He doesn't protect us from the consequences of our own freedom. But comfort was never the point. Creation, whether divine or human, demands tension, the friction between what is and what could be. Without that, existence becomes sterile. So when you see someone rise and the world calls them arrogant, understand, you're not witnessing ego, you're witnessing evolution. And evolution always offends the ones who choose not to move. There comes a moment, quiet but seismic, when you realize that most people don't actually hate arrogance, they hate what it reminds them of. They hate the mirror that boldness holds up. Because arrogance, stripped of its poison, is simply confidence that no longer seeks permission. And that terrifies a world built on approval. So the rebellion isn't about becoming arrogant, it's about reclaiming what arrogance truly is, an unfiltered belief in your necessity. You break free the day you stop apologizing for existing at full volume. Think about it. Every prophet, philosopher, and visionary who ever moved the human story forward began with the same act of defiance. They dared to believe they were right when everyone else thought they were insane. Moses standing before Pharaoh, Socrates standing before Athens, Musk standing before governments and markets, Zuckerberg standing before a skeptical world that couldn't imagine life online. They all shared one crime: certainty. The world mistakes that for arrogance because it doesn't understand what it looks like when someone acts without fear, when someone refuses to wait for permission to be extraordinary. But here's the secret. Arrogance becomes toxic only when it seeks to dominate others, when it turns outward instead of inward. True confidence, the kind rooted in purpose, not pride, has no desire to crush, it only creates. This is the rebellion. To rise without apology, to lead without needing validation, to build not for applause but for truth. Machiavellie said it best, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." But what if he missed something deeper? What if the ultimate form of power isn't to be feared or loved, but understood? To live in such alignment with your vision that people's opinions become irrelevant. To exist as force, not facade. That's how you break free. You stop arguing for your smallness. You stop diluting your light to fit the comfort of dim rooms. You stop confusing humility with hesitation. Humility isn't thinking less of yourself, it's thinking truthfully of yourself. It's recognizing your scale and living it without shame. When you do that, something changes. The noise fades, the critics blur. You start to move differently, not faster, but clearer. Every insult becomes data. Every rejection becomes refinement. And you realize arrogance isn't the enemy of virtue. Complacency is. Because it's not arrogance to believe you were meant for more. It's arrogance to think the world owes you comfort for staying small. So rebel, quietly, fiercely, inwardly. Let your discipline be your answer. Let your progress be your proof. You don't need to explain your fire to those still afraid of the smoke. At some point, you'll understand. The war was never between you and them. It was always between you and the version of yourself that needed them.